When you look at the image of fire, the first instinct is to avoid it. Fire consumes, it destroys, it burns away everything that stands in its path. And yet throughout history, across cultures, across philosophies, fire has always been more than destruction. It has been the symbol of purification, of transformation, of something becoming greater through trial. Gold does not become gold until it passes through fire. Steel does not become strong until it has been tempered in flame. And human beings, us in our lives, in our struggles, we do not become who we are meant to be without first stepping into the fires of adversity. Now, this isn't just poetic metaphor, it's psychology. When we encounter struggle, our brain is wired to resist it. The amygdala sends out fear signals, the body reacts with stress hormones, and everything inside of us says, get out, escape, avoid. But if you look deeper into neuroscience, you'll see something fascinating. Stress, when interpreted correctly, is not always destructive. It can be adaptive. It sharpens focus. It mobilizes energy. It increases resilience. When a person reframes difficulty, not as punishment but as preparation, the stress response can actually serve growth rather than breakdown. The fire, then, isn't your enemy. It is your teacher. Napoleon Hill, the man whose words have shaped generations of thinkers and doers, once wrote, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." Now think about that. He doesn't say some adversities. He doesn't say occasionally. He says every, meaning that within the very situation you're praying to escape, there is a hidden advantage. Within the very loss you are grieving, there is the beginning of a new capacity. Within the very struggle you think will end you, there is the seed of the next chapter of your becoming. That's not a casual statement. That is a radical reframing of life itself. Let's pause here. Imagine gold in its raw form, dull, mixed with dirt, covered in impurities. If you looked at it on the ground, you might walk past it without realizing its worth. But once it enters the fire, everything unnecessary burns away. What remains is what was always valuable, but now revealed. Your life is not any different. The parts of you that are insecure, fearful, easily broken, they burn off in the heat of trials. The parts of you that are strong, resilient, grounded in faith, those remain. And when God allows you into the fire, it is never to destroy you, it is to reveal you. We know this psychologically as well. Post-traumatic growth is a well-researched concept. It shows that after intense adversity, things that should in theory break a person, many individuals actually emerge with greater strength, deeper gratitude, clearer priorities, and a renewed sense of purpose. They don't just recover, they transform. But here's the key, this growth only emerges when we choose to see the fire differently. If you interpret every hardship as unfair, as meaningless, as punishment, then yes, the fire will consume you. But if you step into it with the mindset that something valuable is being forged, you unlock resilience you never knew you had. And this is where faith intersects with psychology, because God never wastes pain. Every flame you walk through is not random, it is targeted. The fire is precise. It burns away what should not follow you into your future. It breaks attachments that limit you. It clears space for strength you will need later, and though you may not see it in the moment, though the flames may feel unbearable, the process is refining you for a destiny greater than your comfort zone could ever hold. Now think about your own life. The moments you're proudest of, the qualities you most respect in yourself, did they come from ease? Did they come from sitting in comfort, shielded from challenge? Or did they come from times when you were stretched, when you thought you couldn't go further, but somehow you did? Courage is not born in safety. Patience is not developed in instant gratification. Faith is not strengthened when everything is predictable. All of these come from fire. They are born in the very places you wanted to escape. Napoleon Hill often emphasized persistence, that relentless refusal to quit, even when the odds seem impossible. He framed it as one of the master keys to success. But where do you think persistence is built? It's not in the moments of victory, it's in the nights of defeat. It's not when people cheer for you, but when you feel abandoned. It's not when doors fly open, but when they remain shut again and again. The fire is the training ground of persistence. And persistence, more than talent, more than resources, is what separates those who achieve from those who only dream. But let me be very clear, being in the fire does not feel noble. It feels crushing. It feels lonely. It feels like maybe God has forgotten you. And this is the psychological trap. When pain comes, the brain looks for meaning. If you do not provide that meaning, the mind will fill in the blank with fear. I'm not enough. This will never end. God doesn't care. That's why it's not enough just to survive the fire. You have to narrate it correctly while you are in it. You must remind yourself again and again, this is refining me, not destroying me. This is preparation, not punishment. This is the shaping of something I will one day thank God for. Science shows that the story you tell yourself about stress changes the way your body responds to it. If you see stress as harmful, your blood vessels constrict, your body breaks down. If you see stress as a challenge that will make you stronger, your blood vessels remain more relaxed, your physiology adapts better. The difference is not the stress itself, it's the meaning. That's what the fire is asking you. What story will you tell while you walk through me? So here's what I want you to hear today. Stop resenting the fire. Stop assuming it means you failed or that God has abandoned you. Instead, see it as the place of refinement, the place where the real you is emerging, the version of yourself that will handle the next chapter with wisdom, with strength, with humility. That version cannot be formed in ease. It must be born in heat. And if you're in that heat right now, it means God sees more in you than you see in yourself. It means He's preparing you for something bigger than your current environment. Do not run from it. Do not curse it. Stand in it. Let it shape you. Let it teach you. Let it strip away what you no longer need. The fire is not the end. The fire is the process. And on the other side of it, you will not only survive, you will shine. Remember this. The fire is not against you. The fire is for you. And when you understand that, you stop asking, why me? And you start saying, use me. Because God does not place you in flames to burn you up. He places you there to bring you forth as gold. There's a moment in every life when struggle becomes so familiar, so prolonged, that you begin to assume this is just how it will always be. You push, you try, you fight, but the weight doesn't move. You pray, you plan, you persist, but the doors stay locked. And somewhere inside you begin to whisper, maybe this is it. Maybe this is all there is. That's the psychology of fatigue, not just physical exhaustion, but the deep erosion of belief that change is possible. But then there's something else, something no lab, no scan, no psychological framework can fully explain. The moment when God says now. It is as though a switch flips. Circumstances that resisted for years begin to yield. People who overlooked you suddenly see you. Opportunities that were sealed shut begin to crack open. And the striking thing is this. You didn't suddenly become stronger overnight. The fight didn't suddenly vanish. What changed was the timing, and timing is everything. Psychology and neuroscience are clear on this. Persistence and preparation matter enormously. They wire your brain for adaptability, they condition your body for resilience, they align your habits with success. But timing, the moment when external conditions align with internal readiness, cannot be engineered by sheer force. That is where the language of faith steps in. Because when God declares now, it overrides the barriers that logic insisted were immovable. Napoleon Hill understood this dynamic in his own way. He wrote extensively about the power of definiteness of purpose and persistence, but he also acknowledged the mysterious quality of what he called infinite intelligence, a force beyond calculation that seemed to meet people at their point of determination. Think about that. Infinite intelligence, divine timing, God's decree, different language pointing toward the same reality. There are moments when the universe bends toward you, when the resistance you've battled begins to dissolve, not because you suddenly changed everything, but because a higher order said the season of waiting is over. This is where human psychology often struggles. We are conditioned to think in linear cause and effect. If I work harder, I get results. If I try again, I eventually succeed. But life is rarely that simple. People work tirelessly and remain unseen. Others wait for years before a breakthrough suddenly accelerates. And still others who seem less prepared find doors swinging open. The point isn't to measure fairness, it's to recognize that some breakthroughs are not about effort alone. They are about timing, and timing belongs to God. Now, this doesn't mean we sit passively waiting for the clouds to part. It means that we live in tension, the tension between doing all we can and trusting what only God can. We prepare, we persist, we keep walking, even when nothing moves, because preparation keeps us aligned for the moment. Timing shifts. Imagine training every day, lifting weights, running, staying disciplined. For months, there's no visible reward. Then one day, you need to sprint, to carry, to endure. And because you prepared in obscurity, you succeed in the moment that matters. That's what the waiting season is for. It's not wasted, it's training. When God says now, no power can resist. Think about that. Circumstances that looked permanent become temporary. Systems that excluded you begin to make space for you. Relationships that collapsed make way for connections you never imagined. And you realize what felt like endless waiting wasn't delay for delay's sake. It was alignment. You were being shaped, trained, equipped, so that when the moment came, you wouldn't fumble it. Let's anchor this in neuroscience for a moment. Our brains are predictive machines. They anticipate the future based on past patterns. If every attempt has failed, your brain begins to assume failure is inevitable. That's why hope feels irrational. It contradicts what the brain expects. But faith disrupts that cycle. Faith says, just because it hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean it won't. Faith interrupts the predictive coding of the brain and keeps you available for change, even when logic insists nothing will shift. This is why people who hold on to faith tend to notice opportunities others miss. They haven't shut down the possibility of breakthrough. Napoleon Hill often repeated the phrase, "A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits." On the surface, that sounds like persistence, but if you look closer, it's also about readiness. If you quit too soon, you may exit just before the timing turns. If you remain, even when it feels useless, you're there when God finally says now. That's why winners look lucky from the outside. They weren't luckier, they were simply still present when the tide turned. Now think about how this plays out spiritually. God has a pattern of sudden reversals. Joseph in prison becomes Joseph in power in a single day. The Israelites enslaved for centuries walk out free overnight. Jesus on the cross on Friday becomes resurrected, Lord on Sunday. The pattern is the same: long seasons of silence, of resistance, of seeming defeat, followed by sudden unstoppable change. And what you see over and over again is this: when God says now, no chain, no prison, no enemy, no circumstance can resist. This is critical for your psychology. Because if you anchor your hope only in your current circumstances, discouragement is inevitable. But if you anchor your hope in divine timing, you live with expectancy. You train yourself to believe that any day could be the day, any moment could be the now that shifts everything. That expectancy changes the way you move through difficulty. Instead of despairing, you endure. Instead of quitting, you keep showing up. And because you keep showing up, you're positioned when the shift arrives. Here's the hard part: you don't control when God says now, and that frustrates us. We want certainty, we want guarantees. But imagine if every dream unfolded instantly. Imagine if every prayer was answered immediately. You would never develop patience. You would never cultivate depth. You would never learn resilience. Waiting seasons aren't about punishment, they're about capacity. They stretch you so that when breakthrough comes, you can sustain it. Without that inner growth, you would sabotage the very blessing you were praying for. Think about it: opportunity without maturity destroys people. Wealth without wisdom ruins lives. Influence without character collapses quickly. So while you're waiting, you're being built. And when the building is complete, when the timing aligns, when God looks at you and says now, that's when the lift happens, and no opposition can prevent it. And here's the beauty: when it happens, you'll know it wasn't just you. Yes, your persistence mattered. Yes, your discipline played a role. But the acceleration, the sudden opening, the undeniable shift that was God, and that realization produces humility. It keeps you grounded because you know that what you're walking in is bigger than your own effort. So if you're in the waiting, if you're in the in-between where nothing seems to change, here's the encouragement: don't confuse silence with absence. Don't confuse delay with denial. God's now is not random, it's precise. It comes at the moment when what's inside you matches what's ahead of you. And when that alignment happens, you won't have to force the door, it will open. I'll leave you with this reflection. Some of you are exhausted because you've been trying to lift yourself out. You've been pushing, pulling, striving, as if everything depends on your strength. And yes, effort matters. But at some point, you must rest in the truth that when God says now, the lifting will not be by your power, but by His, and that lift will take you further than all your striving ever could. So stay ready, stay faithful, keep walking, even in the silence, because the moment will come when God says, now I will lift you out. And when that moment arrives, nothing in heaven or on earth will be able to hold you down.